Mrs. Melanie GINGELL, the barrister at DUGHTY Street Chambers, will join us now from the UK to discuss with her how the international legal bodies can be supportive to Rojava. Welcome, Mrs. GINGELL, to our program.
Thank you very much.
The people of Rojava are struggling for their basic rights. How can the international legal bodies be supportive to their aspirations, Mrs. GINGELL?
Well, everything that's happening in Rojava clearly has to be seen against the background, the incredibly fragile and difficult background across the region. Rojava is not, as you know, a state, an official state per se, but the PYD is exercising de facto control over those three cantons. And in international law, because of that de facto control, they are in a position to have to guarantee basic fundamental rights to the people in the territories which they control. So even though they are not officially a state, the international legal standards do apply. And of course, the social contract that forms the foundation of the legal system within the three cantons specifically overtly states that the International Bill of Rights does apply and forms a fundamental part of the legal system. So that's mainly three documents: the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and thirdly the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So all the rights in those three documents that form the foundation of the United Nations do apply in Rojava.
There are three justice ministries in the three cantons of Rojava. How can these ministries benefit from the Western democratic legal systems, Mrs. GINGELL?
Well, broadly speaking, these three ministries, which are based on this concept of democratic confederalism and gender equality, and therefore have, I understand, two ministers at the head of each justice system, a male and a female minister. And broadly speaking, they are guaranteeing the rights that are set out in the social contract. But given the context, the kind of fragility of the context within which they're working, undoubtedly and undeniably there are violations of rights. And that's something that happens in every country across the world. But of course, in Rojava, the circumstances are slightly more extreme than most countries have to deal with. And so, yes, there are violations. So what are the main answers, what are the main remedies that can be brought to bear to ensure that rights can be guaranteed? Well, I think the two interdependent factors are firstly accountability, and secondly the independence of the judiciary. So firstly, talking about accountability, the security services, the civilian security services, the prison services, they need to know that they will be held accountable for any violations, for any violation of good practice. So there needs to be a code of conduct in place which sets out what people can expect from these services that are dealing with them. There needs to be monitoring bodies. There needs to be an independent, and that's fundamental. Any monitoring bodies need to be independent, and they need to be able to conduct a prompt and impartial inquiry into any allegations that the civilian security services or the prison services have violated any of the standards that are in place. And secondly, the interdependent kind of other factor is that the judiciary itself needs to be independent, and that's absolutely fundamental. The judges need to know that their jobs are absolutely secure, for example. You can't have a position where they have short-term contracts and therefore they know that if they make a decision that's unpopular with the political authorities that they might lose their job. So job security for the judiciary is absolutely fundamental. They need to know that the political reach of the authorities does not extend into the courtroom.
Since the start of the Rojava revolution, Turkey, a NATO member, has committed several human rights violations. Besides supporting gang members who are attacking Rojava and allowing them to cross the border, Turkey is besieging Rojava and has killed many civilians who tried to cross the border. Is there any way to hold Turkey accountable for its violations?
The kind of broader context within which people are having to function within Rojava is clearly affected by, yes, as you say, the wider political and military situation across the region, where, as you say, it seems to be very well documented that jihadi people are crossing the border from Turkey into Syria, and there have been military incursions across the border. And that's one of the emerging features in the region, these kind of factors which are transcending state borders, the nationalism and the jihadism and the large numbers of refugees and IDPs. So the problems, the kind of cross-border problems are huge, are vast. So what can be done? What are the potential remedies? It seems to me that the most likely, the most realistic remedy is going to be a political one, and we have to try to mobilize the international community to condemn what's happening. That's obviously difficult. What confuses the situation in relation to Rojava is, of course, the wider issues around the PKK and its status in the European Union and in the United States of America. And so therefore the ongoing but very faltering peace process in Turkey between the Turkish government and Abdullah Öcalan, for example, is absolutely critical, because whilst the PKK remains a listed organization, it makes it very difficult for the international community to come on board with the PYD in Rojava and kind of overtly publicly support them. And that really is the starting point, that the EU and the United States need to consider realistically now whether now is the appropriate time to put real consideration into the status of the PKK. I think that's the key starting point.
MELANIE GINGELL, the barrister at DUGHTY Street Chambers, thanks a lot for speaking to us on Ronahî.
Thank you very much.